of the most challenging aspects of photography when you're first starting out is how to take photos of yourself. This is almost universal. It's not an easy thing to do. So in this video, I want to give you a start to finish guide on how to get good self-portraits, whether you're using a dedicated camera or your phone. So what I'm going to do is show you my favorite tips and techniques for getting good photos of yourself, and I'm going to be doing this for both phone photographers and dedicated camera photographers. As far as the phone goes, I'm using an iPhone 13 Pro Max. I'll dive into the settings that I use when I take portraits using this when we get outside. And for the camera users, I've got a Sony ZV E-10, and I'm going to be using the TT Artisan 1.8 56mm lens. I'll have a video coming out about this lens in the near future. Spoiler alert, for what you pay, it's pretty great. But I want to dive in a little more into detail in a separate video. So let's go outside, set our scene, and get two self-portraits, one with the phone and one with the lens. Before we head out, it's a good idea to have an idea of the scene you want to create. Setting up a portrait maybe in a way that isn't exactly how you look every single day. Something a little more Western. Maybe find something a little less modern looking. And let's go outside. So the way that I'm going to do this is for each item, I'm only going to use things that it's likely you would have. If you're starting out and you're using your phone, it's not very likely that you have tons of tripods and lights and things like that. So for the phone picture, I am only going to use everyday items that I find as props or places to set the phone. So it's just going to be the phone and the environment. All right, so the theme of the photo shoot is going to be Western, and not much is more Western than a tractor, but since I don't own a tractor, we're going to use a riding lawnmower. An old one that doesn't work and is growing vegetation out of the seat. Look at this thing. One of the biggest things to take into consideration when you are taking self-portraits with your phone camera is that it doesn't have the capabilities that the lenses and sensors on a larger dedicated camera would have. So your best friend is not going to be background blur or portrait mode. Those things are fine and they work, but I recommend using foreground elements to add that extra layer of depth instead of trying to fake background blur. So we're gonna find some foreground elements and something to sit the phone on to take the picture, because not everybody has a tripod. All right, so I've found some elements that I think would make this picture look as good as possible while just using everyday random crap that I could find to prop it up on. So this is the setup. Random metal drum, cooler, little plant pot holder thing that is holding the phone, literally just a stick to make sure it doesn't fall over. That's the setup there. Super easy, no money spent. So I'm gonna go get the costume and put myself in this scene. Super simple setup here, no money was spent, and this is the result of the shots. So the most important thing to keep in mind when you're trying to take proper portraits of yourself and you're using your phone is those foreground elements. For one. For two, make use of that self-timer, prop it up somewhere. And three, and perhaps most importantly, make sure to play with the different lenses, the different lens options your camera has. Don't just stick to the main camera, get creative with it. Find things to put in front of the lens to create that depth. And I personally would recommend trying to avoid using portrait mode and getting that fake background blur. All right, now I gotta get this crap off while I'm setting up for the camera side of things because it is way too hot. So the key thing to take away from the mobile phone photography portion of the video is make sure to set up your shot. Don't just, obviously if you're just taking a selfie, that's one thing, but if you're trying to take proper portrait, plan it out, add some elements. Angles and composition are going to be your absolute best friend. If you want it to look more professional or artistic or whatever it is, don't just have somebody take a picture of you. Try and set up the shot. Get some foreground elements in there to add some depth. Plan it out a little bit. Don't just shoot straight on at eye level. Get like a lower angle, a higher angle, shoot through something, because the fact that the cell phone sensors in the camera are so much smaller and less powerful than a larger APS-C or, full frame, even micro four thirds sensor in a cheaper camera. They're so much smaller than those that it's up to you to add something to the frame, add something to the picture to give it that artistic element that will offset the fact that you can't get that real background blur and high levels of detail that you would get shooting on an actual dedicated camera. All right, so now we're going to switch over to the camera here, and I'm going to use this decade-old GoPro so that I can show you the setup once it's set up, because I'm going to be shooting with this camera and won't be able to record on it. So we're going to get the setup, trusty TT Artisan 1.8 lens, and I'll show you that setup, and then we'll compare the two images, pros and cons, things like that. Alright, so I'm shooting on a decade-old GoPro right now. I've got the camera over here set up on a tripod with a low angle, trying to replicate the same angle as the last shot. Aperture 1.8, 1/100th of a second, with a lens that goes to 1.8. That depth of field is going to be shallow enough that even if something isn't super close to the lens, it can be a foreground out of focus element, because the plane where it can actually focus and what is in focus when you're at such an aperture, that plane is so shallow that something even a foot or two in front of the subject who's in focus can be out of focus, and the same thing goes for behind. So we're gonna throw this hot ass costume on again and get this shot, and the results in 3, 2, 1. The biggest difference between shooting on your phone and shooting on a dedicated camera is going to be the amount of control you have over all aspects of that shot. So take this recording right now as an example. If I hit record on an iPhone, it shoots at the settings that I have it on. That's it. It's full auto for the most part. It is, the camera decides everything. The camera decides the exposure, focus, ISO, aperture, everything. But on a dedicated camera like this, it's you that has control. I can close the aperture of this camera and make it super duper dark, or open it up, make it way too bright. I can change the focal length of the lens. I can change the shutter speed. You want to see something trippy? Look at that. This is all being done in camera. You do not have that level of control on a phone. So that's the main difference between shooting with a phone or a dedicated camera, is the amount of control. So make sure, if you're using an actual camera, try out manual mode on the camera and try and get creative with those different settings. So there you have it. That's just a quick guide on how to take a photo of yourself, whether you're on a phone or using an actual camera. That's going to be it for me today. I just wanted to make this quick video because I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with, taking pictures of themselves. Now, the editing process, that's on you. That's your taste. That's what you like. There are no rules. You can do literally anything you want. If you want to take yourself out of that picture and put yourself on the moon, you can do that. If you want to brighten it up so much that all you can see is the shadows, it's your artistic vision. I'm not going to stop you, whether you're using a dedicated camera or a smartphone. So I appreciate you checking out this video. Hopefully this video helped you out in some way. Make sure to get creative with it. Creative compositions, creative angles, foreground elements, and a clear subject, in this case being portraits. That subject is you, but make sure you have a clear, obvious subject. Try and frame them in the image using items, using your editing, radial masks, things like that. And that goes for both phone photos and dedicated camera. Those are my few tips that I have on taking better self-portraits, whether you're on a camera or a phone. I appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully this video helped you in some way, and if it did, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. I will get back to everyone. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. And it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters.
Damn it, Bobby, how many times do I have to tell you, boy? Stop going off script. Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
EA Sports. It's in the game. Alright, I think I'm warmed up.
Let's go.